Welcome everyone on this Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Erev Shabbos of Chol Hamoed, on the day of the Shpizin of Aaron HaKohen, the man of Shalom. We're again having a special edition of For the Shabbos Table for Zois Habrocha 5783 with the help of Hashem, and we are sponsored by Yol Klugman and family with the tefillah to Hashem that their family and all of Klal Yisrael should be zeicher to a guten kvittel, and that Hashem should be mamale everybody's needs l'taiva for the coming year. Also, they sponsored already the Mishnah Yomis, but I want to add the Meisner family, children and grandchildren, Nishmas Rachel Bas Abram Yitzchak on our Yortzeit. Our neshama should have an aliyah. She should be Melitzas Yosher for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. So we know that there is an inyan to be mechaber, to attach the end of the Torah to the beginning of the Torah. And the Mefarshim tell us remarkable things about this. We know that the Torah ends off L'einei Kol Yisrael, which Rashi tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, thereby saving Klal Yisrael, because the luchos said that they shouldn't worship idolatry. The luchos made them married, and by breaking the luchos, he unmarried them, so to speak, so that their crime should be lessened, and the evidence of the law against idolatry, which they flagrantly violated with the golden calf, was smashed. And the Chumash, of course, starts with Bereshis Bara Elokim. So the Imrei Tzadikim says an interesting thing. We know that the Gemara in Megillah on Daf Tes Amud Beis tells about a remarkable miracle that happened. Talmai, there was a Greek king, Talmai, who wanted very much to know the Torah. He took 70 sages, he put them into 70 well-stocked studies, locked the door, and told them to translate the Torah into Greek. And a stupendous miracle happened. They all translated it exactly the same, with exact changes, which they felt were necessary for the eyes of the Gentiles. And the very first change they did was, instead of writing Bereshis Bara Elokim in Greek, they reversed it to Elokim Bara Bereshis. And as the Gemara Megillah explains, because Bereshis Bara Elokim lends itself to be misinterpreted, that Hashem took Bereshis, he took building blocks, and he created the world. He had ingredients that were there already, which we know is not true, because the great miracle of creation was ex nihilo, yesh me'ayin, that he created something from nothing, something that cannot be done in a human laboratory. And therefore they changed it to Elokim Bara Bereshis, so it should be clear that Elokim created the initial ingredients and not the other way around. By the way, I always tell people, when somebody, Rachmana litzlan lo yaleinu, is sick, and the doctors say there's no cure, so we say the Shir Amalos, and in the Shir Amalos we say, Esa einai el haharim me'ayin yavo Ezri, I look up to the mountains, where will my help come? Ezri me'em Hashem, my help will come from Hashem, Oseh Shemayim va'aretz, who is the maker of heaven and earth. Now, why do we throw in that he's a maker of heaven and earth? And the answer is don't say there's no cure, because help is coming from Hashem, who made something from nothing. He made the heaven and earth from nothing, so he could definitely give a remedy even if there's nothing there, and that's the connection. So therefore, the Torah, when it was translated for the non-Jewish, had to be reversed in order that they shouldn't make a mistaken interpretation. Says the Imrei Tzadikim, that's why it says L'einei Kol Yisrael Bereshis Bara Elokim. When it's for the eyes of Yisrael, it could say it the original way, Bereshis Bara Elokim. Nobody will make such a mistake. But if it's for the Gentiles, then it has to be reversed. And that's the L'einei Kol Yisrael Bereshis Bara Elokim. Rameir Shapiro, the great author of Daf HaYomi, Zechtzad V'Kodesh Habrocha, Schusi Yogan Aleinu, the pioneer of Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, the very great Rav of Lublin, Rameir Shapiro says a very innovative shot in the proximity of L'Einei Kol Yisrael and Bereshis Bara Elokim, and that is, we know that L'Einei Kol Yisrael means that V'ashabrem L'Einechem, it's a reference, Rashi says, to the breaking of the luchas. So actually this has nothing to do with the proximity of Bereshis Bara Elokim. It's just about L'Einei Kol Yisrael. He says that when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchas, he saved Klal Yisrael, because as I said, now they had a din of unmarried, and now the evidence of the prohibition against idolatry was destroyed. That saved. There would have been another way to save Klal Yisrael, and that is to cause the Gadol Adar or Gedolei Adar to die, because Mitzvah Tzadikim is mechaperes kisreifas beis Elokeinu. By destroying the luchas, Moshe Rabbeinu saved the Tzadikim. And says Rameir Shapiro, that's what it means, L'Einei Kol Yisrael. Who are the Einei Yisrael? The Einei Yisrael are, the eyes of Yisrael are our Gedolei Adar. So Moshe Rabbeinu did a benefit, L'Einei Kol Yisrael, by breaking the luchas, because then the tzaddikim didn't have to die. You know, like for example, at the time of Purim, Daniel died. Hasach was killed. And it could be that the death of this great righteous person, Daniel, was the turning point that saved us at the time of Purim. You know, Mesushelach died, he saved the entire world not only while he was alive, but the flood didn't come until 7 days after his mourning period ended. That's the koyach of a righteous person. Now, the Munkatcher Rebbe, the present Munkatzer Rebbe Shlita, you should have Orech Yomim V'Shonim, in Tovshin Samach, that's 23 years ago already, he said an interesting pshat in the proximity of L'Einei Kol Yisrael and Bereshis Bara Elokim. It's really, really very interesting. He said that, it says in the pasuk, L'chol HaMoira HaGadol, the great awesomeness, Asher Asa Moshe L'Einei Kol Yisrael, and then Bereshis Bara Elokim. Says the Munkatcher Rebbe, L'chol HaMoira HaGadol, the great awe is Yiras Shamayim. And then right afterwards it says Bereshis Bara Elokim, which we know is Torah, right? Bereshis, Rashi says in the beginning of Chumash, B'shvil Torah Shenikra Reishis. If you look in the Targum Yonis and Ben Uziel, Bereshis is rendered B'chukmasa, with wisdom. Says the Munkatcher Rebbe, that's why, that's the connection, and first has to come L'chol HaMoira HaGadol, Yiras Shamayim, and only then can you have the Bereshis Bara Elokim, which we said is B'gematria Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim from the Pe'er Aaron, and Bereshis, you can only have Torah because, as the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Im ein Yira ein Chachma. If there's no Yira, there's no wisdom. And it also says, Kol she'yira asay kedemis l'chachma asay. If fear of Hashem, awareness of Hashem precedes one's wisdom, then Chachma asay miskayemis. That's the pshat in what we always say, Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem. We say that every morning after we say Moed Ani. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us on Lamed Aleph how important Yiras Shamayim is. It is the make it or break it success of life. The Gemara over there says that at the end of our lives, Hashem will ask us, Nasata v'nasata be'emunah, did you do business faithfully? Asakta kavati itim la-Torah, did you make time to learn Torah? Asakta b'periya v'rivya, did you have a Jewish family? Tzipisa l'Yeshua, did you hope for salvation? Pilpalta b'chachma, did you engage in Torah pilpul? Hevanta davar mitoch davar, did you try to apply your lessons? And even so, if you did all of those things, check. Im yiras Hashem oitzoroi in, im lav. It all hinges if we're aware of Hashem. And as we are taught, Seif davar hakol nishmes elikim yirah, ves mitzvahs shma ki zeh kol ha'adam. And it says, Hein Yiras Hashem Hi Chachma. And we know that the Gemara in Shabbos tells us that grain is grain will not spoil if you put in preservative, if you put in chumtin. So the Gemara over there says, yeah, Torah is the grain, right? Hakol tzrichen l'marei chita. Everybody needs the master of the grain. Everybody needs Torah. That's the essence of life. But you need the preservative. Yerushalayim is the preservative. Or the Gemara puts it a different way, that a person that learns Torah but doesn't have awareness of Hashem, he has all the keys to the inner rooms, but he doesn't have the outside key. So he doesn't even get in. He's stuck outside. Yerushalayim, and that's why a lot of people, they don't make it with their learning, because they're not focusing on Hashem. We learn to be Mekayim, the mitzvah of V'dibarta Bam. We learn L'asais Nachas Ruach Liyitzreinu. We learn Adam La'amal Yulad La'amal stands for Lilmaid Al Manas L'asais. That's why if a person goes to a shir and he spends time in the base medrash, and then he comes home and he yells at his wife, or is nasty to his parents, or is abusive to his children, and they're not going to get anywhere with their learning. They didn't get into the front door. They don't have any preservatives for their learning. Says the Munkatcher Rebbe, that's the connection of the beginning of the Torah to the end. Asher asa Moshe la'enei kol Yisrael b'reishis bar Elokim. L'chol ha'mara hagadol is Yerushalayim. Then, and only then, do you have b'reishis bar Elokim. The Chavetz Chaim has a different twist on this. The Chavetz Chaim says, L'chol ha'yada chazaka l'chol ha'mara hagadol asher asa Moshe la'enei kol Yisrael b'reishis bar Elokim. Says the Chavetz Chaim, the strong arm and the great awe which Moshe Rabbeinu did before the eyes of Klal Yisrael, all the Makkos, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, millions of people in less than 18 minutes, the splitting of the Red Sea, the Man, the Be'er Shel Miriam, the Ananei HaKavod, all of the fact that millions of people saw that Hashem was able to bend and wield nature to whichever way he wanted to, showed that this world was under the mastership and under the control and created by a creator. So the Chol HaMoreh HaGadol Asher Asa Moshe La'enei Kol Yisrael, says the Chavetz Chaim, allowed us to be sure that Bereishis Bar Elokim, that the world was created by an Odain, by a master, by a Borei Olam. I saw something really remarkable today. Something, the Minchas Elazar asks that the very last Rashi in the Torah talks about the breaking of the luchas, and it ends off, Yeyasher koichacha sheshibarta, that Hashem thanked Moshe Rabbeinu for breaking the luchas. And we're supposed to end off with the davar tov. And ending off with the words sheshibarta, that you broke, even though it saved Klal Yisrael, the Minchas Elazar wonders why Rashi would end off on, so to speak, a negative note. Supposed to end off with divrei tanchumim, b'davar tov, like shalom. So I saw the Oitzer HaPlois in a footnote in the very end of this wondrous sefer Oitzer HaPlois. He quotes his son, who says a remarkable gematria. It's really remarkable. Sheshi Barta is exactly 1202. Bereishis bara Elokim is exactly 1202. And that's why Rashi ended off with Shishibarta. He wanted to connect the end to the beginning, because Bereishis bara Elokim is exactly 1202. Could be also that it says Hashem destroyed many worlds before he created this world. But anyway, I just want to say one more thing about Einei Kol Yisrael. You know, it talks about Moshe Rabbeinu's accomplishments. L'chol ha'moira ha'gadol, asher asa l'chol ha'yad ha'chazaka, u'l'chol ha'moira ha'gadol, asher asa Moshe le'einei Kol Yisrael. So, you know, Moshe Rabbeinu had many accomplishments. He took us out of Mitzrayim. He got us across the sea. The mun came in his merit. He prayed that we shouldn't be destroyed. He put his life on the line. Im ayin mecheni na mesifrecha. And yet, it seems to be the zenith, the pinnacle of his accomplishment was La'inei Kol Yisrael, that he broke the luchas. Is that the pinnacle of his accomplishment? So Reb Michal Miller from London says a very interesting thought. He says that the Avram Avinu did many things, but the zenith of his tests, according to many opinions, was the Akedas Yitzchak. Because he was willing, for the sake of Hashem, to give up his life's work to do the Ratzon Hashem. His whole life he promoted all over the world kindness, and he campaigned against the idolatrous human sacrifices. Now, if he would sacrifice his son, he would be labeled the biggest hypocrite of the century. And it would ruin all his life's work, and yet he was willing to do that for Hashem. It's the same thing with Moshe Rabbeinu. L'einei Kol Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu, everything was to get to this moment, to give Klal Yisrael the Torah. This was, he spent 40 days and 40 nights not eating, not drinking, not sleeping, to give the Torah to Klal Yisrael. He was ready to give that up to save Klal Yisrael. That's the greatest thing, that a person could give up their life's work to do what was right. Vayal Moshe mi'aretz Moav el Har Nevoi. Moshe Rabbeinu went from the plains of Moav to climb to Har Nevoi, to where he would expire and be buried. Rashi says, Kama milas hayu. From Arvis Moav to Har Nevoi, there were many, many steps. Upasan Moshe b'psiachas. Yet Moshe Rabbeinu, in his haste to do the will of Hashem, did them all in one stride. Asks Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zechat Tzadik L'Vracha, Schusi Yogan Aleinu, but Moshe Rabbeinu passed away on Shabbos, and the Gemara tells us that you're not allowed to take a Psiya Gasa on Shabbos. So how could he do that? So Reb Chaim answers that the Gemara Brachos on Davava Mebei says, La'olam yoritz adam l'dvar mitzvah af b'Shabbos. And since this was a command of Hashem, it's a mitzvah, that's why he was allowed to take a wide stride. And he says that's pshat when it says loikasa einai, his eyes did not dim. Because the fact of the matter is that it says you shouldn't take a wide stride even during the week, because it takes away 1/500th of your vision. However, mitzvahs Hashem bara b'iras einayim. A mitzvah is different. And therefore, since he did a mitzvah, loikasa einai, he didn't lose any of his eyesight. So I was thinking that when it says that you could run to do a mitzvah on Shabbos, the Gemara actually says, Nirdafa ladah, says Hashem. You should run to know Hashem. And since Moshe Rabbeinu would pass away b'neshika, with the divine kiss, there's no greater knowing Hashem than that. And that's why he ran. That was Nirdafa ladah, says Hashem. Loikasa einoi v'loi nas leichai. Moshe Rabbeinu did not lose any sight. He did not lose any vitality, even in his 120th year, even on the day that he passed away. So it's interesting, the Gemara in Shabbos on Daf Kuf Nun Beis says an interesting thing. Talmidei Chachamim, Torah scholars, Kol Zman Shemazkinim, the older they get, Chochma Nitoisefes Bahem, their wisdom increases. In old age, they're on the rise. On the other hand, it says, Ami Haaretz, ignoramus, Kol Zman Shemaskinan, when they become older, Tipshis Nitoisefes Bahem, they become more foolish. They are on the descent. The sage is on the rise as he gets older in his golden years, and the non-learned person, the person who did not pursue ruchnius in their life, they're on a precipitous descent, the metapshin. So the Sefer, the Haggadah Olei Tzadikim, which is really a very precious Haggadah, Rabbi Wallach, he says a very interesting explanation. He says an Am Haaretz lives for their taivas, for their base pleasures, for their sensual drives. And as they get older, more and more of the mortal pleasures and base pleasures become much weaker. All their drives are weaker, their appetites are weaker, their sleeping is weaker, and therefore they mourn and they pine for what once was, and they fret and deteriorate for a life that is now missing. The Talmid Chacham, to the contrary, lives a spiritual life. When he's younger, he has to deal with the battle of the Yetzer Hara, with all of his more baser impulses that distract him. As he gets older, he could give more attention without distraction, without deterrence, to what he really wants to do. And therefore he becomes wiser. That's what it says. Oid Yenuva Meseva, the Sheinim V'Rananim Yir. I want to conclude, again, thanking Yoel Klugman for just being there when I asked for a sponsorship, and also the Meisner family that dedicated the Mishnah Yomis today, Lila Nishmas Rachel Bas Avram Yitzchak, Neshama should have an aliyah. Baruch Mibanim Asher. Blessed from the children is Asher. We've said many times that the Medrash Talpius says, "Me Asher Shmeina Lachmai," that Shmeina is Asher's Mishnah, and Asher stands by the door of Gehenna and doesn't let anybody in who learns Mishnayos. But I found from the Arizal a very fascinating remez that alludes to this, that one who learns Mishnayos is saved from Gehenna. It says, Hashem heleisa min she'ol nafshi. Heleisa min she'ol nafshi, picking up from the pit, from hell, my soul, is Rosh Tevis Mishnah. Heleisa is Hey, Min is Mem, She'ol is Shin, and Nafshi is Nun. Hey, Mem, Shin, Nun is Isis Mishnah. So Mishnah is great fire insurance. People that learn the Mishnah Yomis, if you want to start learning with me Mishnah Yomis, we have a special line on Kol Lashon, 718-906-6471 is a special line. Also, you could listen to me on TorahAnytime.com as well and view me with the Mishnah Yomis. I want to thank you for joining me for this special edition of for the Shabbos table, Zos Habrocha 5783, to thank Hashem for allowing me to teach Torah throughout this Maser, and I hope that I should be able to, with Gezun, teach Torah for the new Maser throughout the year without any interruption, with all of you wonderful viewers and listeners. If you want to sponsor the Bereishis Share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Shabbos and a guten Kvittel.